Hey everyone, and welcome to this video today. Today we're going to have a first look at Idem. So Project Idem, it's an open source project from VMware and Salt, and it's looking to solve a lot of infrastructure as code problems that we see in the wild today. And those of you running vRealize Cloud will actually notice a new feature now called Guardrails. It's a trial feature, and it uses Idem to enforce desired state. An example is, you know, if I deploy an S3 bucket, it can't be connected to the internet, right? So I can actually enforce those policies and state configurations on anyone who uses things. So the guardrails and the governance within vRealize is only getting stronger, and that's thanks to Idem. Right. So look, I've only been playing with Idem for literally 2 days. I thought it was at the point now that let's actually have a look at it. It's matured quite a bit, and I'm by no means an expert, right? So this is really just a first look, my dabble. I found it really cool, really interesting. I thought I'd share it with everyone, and we'll dive in that today. But let's just have a bit of a discussion or talk about, you know, what it is. So when you see it, you will automatically draw parallels to Terraform. Right, Terraform's your sort of go-to infrastructure as code. It's been around for a long time, and don't get me wrong, I love Terraform. Right, I guess where Idem comes from is two different sort of parallels. So Terraform is very much your infrastructure as code that we know and we love. Idem is, and it's not a new concept. It's been around since 2013. Is the idea of infrastructure as data. Right, now some of the differences that I've seen off the bat from using it, and again, I'm not a Terraform expert either, I know enough to be dangerous, is that it's designed to solve a bunch of different problems. So today, I guess they call it an SRE crisis. I think it's just a skill shortages in general across the IT landscape. But we've got a lot of code out there with not enough people to manage it, right? So the idea is, how can we simplify and reduce this code that needs to be managed? And how can we do it intelligently, like with Idem, with its automatic code generation and described capabilities that are there today, has been simplified. So I think there's the reduction in code can be as high as 70% using Idem over Terraform as an example. I think today roughly it's about 25%, but they're aiming to get it to about 70%, which, you know, if you reduce all the code that's out there by 70%, there's a lot less code to manage, and especially in those big complex enterprise environments, it will make things easier for the poor people that have to manage it, right? So just some of the differences that I've seen in my own playing around for the last couple of days is Idem can reference existing resources and manage existing resources without having those resources to be imported. It can do it by ID, where, you know, Terraform requires that infrastructure to be imported into its state file before you're able to manage it, I guess you can say, right? So that's one thing that I've seen, and it's been very useful, right? An example is, you know, I can take an existing VM, I can describe it, and then I can make my changes and I can push those changes, right? I don't need to have anything in a state file to manage, as an example there. Now, they both use modules, the idea of modules, to be able to make the code reusable, but I guess Idem by default is that it exposes all properties of the resource, right, that it creates or manages, where modules in Terraform, the outputs are very explicit, which can impact the reusability in those modules. As an example, secure parameter files, so Idem supports them out of the box. It's really handy actually for all the secrets and stuff that I'm using. I'm not having anything in plain text, and it just does it, which is great. And then there's the partial state evaluation, right? So Idem can evaluate a state file can be evaluated and processed without unintended consequences, since the delete operations within Idem are explicit, right? So with Terraform as an example, is that you can do a partial evaluation, and any objects that aren't there, it treats them as delete, as an example. Now, I know there's safeguards and there's things that you can do around that, but Terraform's that very much all or nothing approach, where Idem you can pick and choose and it's not going to impact you know, you accidentally deleting something. And look, we've all been there and accidentally deleted something. And this is very important when it comes to big enterprises, right? Like, I use Terraform in my lab. I use it to set things up. It's very quick, it's very easy, but I know that I'm going to set it up and I'm going to manage it because I'm the only one managing it. There's only one chef in the kitchen, right? When we get to an enterprise environment, we've got 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 applications, if not more. You know, some are in-house developed, some are third-party developed, some are COTS products. You've got a big mix and match, and then you've got hundreds of people that have their fingers in the pie managing these things, right? And it's all well and good to try and put something in place to go, yep, everything's driven out of code, it's this, it's that, but there's always going to be someone who changes something through the console and whatnot. And this is, I guess this is the difference, is that won't affect Idem, right? It's not gonna delete something because it's changed and it doesn't meet the state file, as an example, right? You have to explicitly say delete it. If not, it'll just amend it to what it needs to be. And this is also the difference. I've seen some cool stuff online, people managing their GitHub accounts with Idem. So pretty much anything with an API, you can manage through Idem, right? And it's all run through Python. It's very easy to install. Pip install Idem, and then you install the connectors that you want. It's all open source. You know, go and check it out. And look, let's dive in. Let's have a bit of a play and see what you think. Now, all this stuff is available from the project idemproject.io page. Run through it. It's very cool stuff, right? So let's dive in. All right. So it uses Python to run. I'm not going to install it or set up the access keys and stuff. That's all in the documentation. It's very easy. So we'll just jump straight into it. I'm going to use Azure as the endpoint here because that's that's where the most examples were, and that's what I've sort of been playing in. Right. So let's have a bit of a look-see at what it is. Right. So first off, let's have a look. So I'm going to create a basic resource group. Let's go step by step. Like, this might be a little bit slow. We'll have some better stuff in a little bit, and I'll show you connect to things. So, for example, let's go to my page here and let's look at a describe. Let's just see. Like, I think I should already have a nick that's not attached to anything. So if I'll probably have one here. There it goes. Oh, that's not it. There it is. Alright, so we can see I'm doing Idem describe, Azure Virtual Networks interface, and I'm using a filter. If I didn't use a filter, I'd get all the network interfaces that my account could see anyway. So let's have a look at that. So that's one that was just there, and it was just there. Like, I don't know when I created it. It just happened to be part of my accounts, and I only found it because I did a describe of all, and I was like, oh, what's that? So you can see there that that's output that. Cool. All right, I've got that. Now, one of the main things, I guess, the differences here is that Idem is infrastructure as data, where Terraform is more of the infrastructure as code. And that flexibility around the data aspect is really where it starts to play in, right? So infrastructure as data, very cool stuff, and you know, it's pretty much using, instead of a state file being a source of truth, it's using the console. Right, the API of the cloud endpoint that you're doing. Now, you can enforce your state. That's no problems, and that can be the source of truth. But in an enterprise, and a lot of things that I see fall down in a lot of ways, especially at enterprise scale, where you're talking 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 machines, you know, 200-300 different chefs, all with fingers in the pie. You know, so many times I see you try to do infrastructure as code, you're deploying things, and then someone changes something through the console or something else. Someone tries to then, you know, enforce that state, and boom, the resource is gone and deleted. Right? It happens so often, it's not funny. And while we like to think that everything doesn't have state, you know, especially in an enterprise environment, it adds a more complexity that it usually doesn't contain state. Right? So, you know, those losses are usually big. Right, when things like that happen. So anyway, let's move on. Let's create a new file here. We'll call it Azure demo.sls. Cool. And let's paste that in. Oh no, that's not the right thing. I didn't copy it. Now let's paste this in, copy. Paste it in, cool. And then let's run this. So we can do item, state, Azure, demo, SLS. Alright. Cool. Alright, so that's created the resource group. Now I can do a describe on that, so I can go item describe, get the resource type. So we can see there the dot present. That's the same as, that's basically saying I want it to be there, right? So that's the state, that's what I want it to be. Where I could have absent and that would delete it, right? It would make sure that it's not there, which is why it's an explicit delete. And if we go back to here, I'll grab that, copy that, I'll describe that, and I should actually get a couple because I've got a whole bunch of different resource groups in there, right? So there's all the different resource groups that have come back, and we should be able to, you know, the one we just created in there is in there. But yeah, let's have a look. There it is, right there. All right, so I could use the filter to actually get it back. All right, let's keep going. Let's add in the virtual network. All right, so let's add this in. Actually, so a demo. Oh, paste that in. All right. Now let's go run that state again, and it's gonna, cool. All right, let's create the network. Let's move on. Let's do the subnet. Yes, obviously you'd want to do this through a IDE or something equivalent. This is not the most efficient way to do it, but it's just the machine that I had Python on that I was doing all the demos on. So let's run that again. All right, cool. It's created the subnet. Let's get this, the public IP address. Let's whack that in there. Oh. Alright, let's look at that. Alright, cool. Public IP address created. Let's do the security group. Alright, let's run it again. We should create the security group. Cool. And if we actually scroll up, we'll see that it, oh, there we go. See that it's already said no need to do that, no need to do that, no need to do that. Okay, security group, let's create that. And let's do Nick. So let's go. Let's do the Nick, VM, paste that in there, run it again. Cool. Let's create a state there. And then let's create the machine. So this one's development. Cool. Let's do VI. And let's run that for the final time. And that's created, or creating, as it should say there that it's creating at the moment. Yeah, so you know, all them has been done. Great, awesome. All right, so while we're here, let's what I might do is that if we actually, what I'll do is we'll run this again, and we should see that, yeah, it's all done, it's okay, it's still creating, but that's fine. While that's creating, what I want to do is show you something very cool. So let's get that nick again. So where was that virtual nick? All right. So what I want out of here is the ID. So this is the ID, right? This is the tag ID there. And what I'm going to do is just create a machine, right? So let's go. I think I've already got it here. Existing. Yep. So I can do vi existing. All right. So this is just, again, this is using a resource group that already exists. I'm creating a new VM, and we'll see here under network interfaces, I've got that ID in there, right? So I can get out of this. Alright. And now let's enforce that. So let's do item state existing SLS. Oh, I've got it deleted. So let's go. See, that was absent there. So let's go back and do present. All right, we'll execute that, and it's creating, and it's adding it to that. Oh, where is it? There it is. So it's adding that network, that NIC, to that machine, right? And now what's even cooler is if we go back and run that other state. Where is it? There it is. Make sure that it's all there. All right, cool. It's there. So that was the machine. What I want to do is actually get that machine. So let's do machines. Yep. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a describe on Azure virtual machines. I'm using a filter. I'm grabbing this machine that I've created, and I'm going to output it to a VM SLS. Right. Now, if I look at that VM SLS, it looks like the stuff I wrote, and that's exactly the point. And this is the, you know, I didn't have to write any of this code, so I can actually just take any resource that I currently have in Azure, pipe that out into an SLS file, and I can then start managing them without needing a state file, for instance, right? I can make changes to them. I can, like I did with the NIC and the VM, I can take existing resources and pair them up if I needed to. And now that I won't do anything to this. Let's quit out of it. So this is directly piped from describe. Haven't done a single thing. Let's then do item state and do the what I call it, VM SLS. It's gonna go, yep, cool, it's there, great. But at the same time, I can go to my item, remove this to remove. Oh, not remove. What am I doing? Absent. and it's going to delete that machine. Right, so it will now be deleting. So if I do this, yeah, it's in deleting status, and it's deleting. Right, so I just piped it out. I can delete it. Obviously, I can make changes to it, and yeah, like I never had to have provisioned that through Idem, for instance, right? Cool. So that's all work, but you know, as we saw, everything is hard coded, right? As an example, so let's actually have a look at something that's not hard coded. Let's look at our templates. So you would see that each one of these things that I created, because obviously, you know, you'd probably have each one of these in their own module, so you can manage them independently, right? Now I've got them all in one group. As I said, it's just an intro, basic, first looks, those sort of things. And we can see the location there. So using Ninja, we can, the same templating, so if you're used to Salt, you definitely know how to use this, is that we can set the location. So I've set the location for all those things. You can also see state required, right? So I've just done it whole blanket, so I can just do a whole environment, tear it down, stand it up, those sort of things. And we'll also see I've got so subnet ID and item, VM name. So if we actually go down, the reason we got subnet ID, not subnet, subscription ID, is the fact when you're doing public addresses and other things, its ID is sub ID, like it's got the sub ID in the ID, right? Now, I didn't necessarily actually have to do this. You can actually, and again, this is sort of just building up maturity, and my understanding of it is that you can do dependency mapping, right? So I can actually go in here, I can go, you know, I can reference the subnet creation up here. I can reference that, and I can do, you know, dot ID whatever. So I can reference values from other ones, and that will automatically create a dependency mapping, meaning that one has to succeed before the other one goes ahead. And you can also put in requisites and other things where you can actually say this needs to be completed before this starts and all the rest of it. So you can get very, very complex in these, and you can pass values and variables and all those sort of things between it, right? So it is very mature, and that's probably what I'll start a 101 video series on this. This is really just a first look at, yeah, this is cool, I can see how this fits, right? So look, that's just a very first look at Idem. Look, it's coming along very quick, lots of content that's coming out for it. It's already part of VRA, and I can see this playing an even bigger role in VRA, especially under hood where it comes to cloud native objects and everything else. It's very, very cool, right? Anyway, look, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's just it's obviously a project that's still going on. It's open source, anyone can contribute. And look, I've been having fun just playing with it, right? And just seeing how it works, seeing how it's different to Terraform, seeing how it's different to VRA. And look, at the end of the day, the goal is to make multi-cloud management easy, right? And so any tool that's striving to do that, thumbs up from me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time. See you, bye.